no, I don't see things or hear things as we go through. That's why I do that. And I testified in court. This test results would suggest she's schizophrenic. I might have been right, but really wrong. That's really what the test said, but that's not really what's going on. So that's the other reason these are 3 hours. You know, I interview people, I give them the test, I score all the tests in my office while they're there, so we go through them. One of the things you want to look at, these tests are using what are called group norms. Okay, so the personality assessment inventory, I compare your score to 2,500 other people. But you're not a group. Linda's an individual. She's not a group. How do I know that Linda's score can safely be compared to that group? I ask her. Linda, other people who filled out the test like you think they, B, C, D, feel this way, this way. What do you think about that? Oh, that's true. Yep, I really do feel that. No, that never happened to me. And I take whatever they say. Because in the long run, it will come out in court. It is not my job to put people under the spotlight and make them tell the truth. It's just my job to collect the data and make sense of it. So when we go to court, it's the attorney's job to bring out the discrepancies and how do we manage those discrepancies. So I would think similarly for CASAs, you may sometimes get information you're thinking, this doesn't add up. It may not have to add up. Maybe your job is just to report what you're seeing and allow the process in the court to kind of distill out the important stuff. So commonly used tests. Mental status exams basically are, they can be like an actual test that I give, but it's an interview, and I want to know, are you able to do the rest of the test? You know what date is? You know who the president is? You know why you're here? I'm asking this question because somebody says, I have no clue, or, you know, I'm from Mars, and then I don't give the rest of the test. I tested an individual one time, and they did really well until about an hour and a half into the test, and they started going like this. And I thought, what the? They were drunk. And I did not know it. I didn't smell alcohol, and what they said was, I think I'm going to be sick. I said, what do you mean you're going to be sick? I had 4 beers and a pint of whiskey and all this stuff that they had had before they, like 2 o'clock in the morning, my appointment was at 9. It was a severe alcoholic, I mean, that was a diagnosis, but I could not tell that person was that, so we had to quit the testing. I tested someone 2 weeks ago, and we're going through their drug history. They were using heroin, and I said, when's the last time you used? About 4 hours ago. I couldn't tell. Now, I'm told addicts can spot addicts. I'm fortunate, I've never had that problem. I mean, unless your eyes are really bloodshot and you have a needle sticking out of your arm, I cannot tell. So a lot of times, that's part of the problems in the testing is that you pay attention. And so the tests I use have parts in them where I can tell if you paid attention. So one of them, several of them ask the same questions over and over, that's why. Were you awake when you took it over here? And number 5 said this, and number 52 is asking the same question. Is that really the truth? Because if you're just randomly responding, the test will pick that up, okay? So we have intelligence skills for children and adults and social awareness. This is like if somebody has Asperger's. So how aware are they of facial cues? So adults that have Asperger's, as an example, have a hard time reading your face. So that's why they can be at a party and tell a really inappropriate joke and everybody's going like, and they don't get it that they're really going like that, okay? Asperger's is actually fairly common, and in DSM-5, it doesn't exist anymore. It existed in DSM-4 and 4R, and they kicked it out in DSM-5. So now it's just part of autism spectrum. They got rid of it as a separate diagnosis by a vote of hands.
Yep.
So if nothing else, it's democratic. So clinical assessment, I like the personality assessment inventory. Another one is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. The MMPI is really long. It'll take you about an hour and a half to do it. And these people typically do not have the patience to do that with me. If I do a custody eval, I'll make you take an MMPI. But the other one, the Personality Assessment Inventory, half an hour, 45 minutes. I've got the program in my office. I score it right when you're sitting there, and we talk about the issues. The personality assessment inventory and the Minnesota multiphasic inventory both have met what are called Daubert standards in court. Daubert was a lawsuit where attorneys were saying, how much confidence can I put that this is the real McCoy? So Daubert means that you're using a test that is commonly used and that has validity and reliability scales so the judge knows the error rate. So when I give an IQ test, I'll say something like, the person has an IQ of 95, and at the 95% confidence interval, the IQ is between 91 and 99. What does that mean? That if I gave the test 100 times, 95 times, they would get IQ between 91. That's the error rate, Your Honor. Okay? So that's why you do that. So on some of these other scales, there are error rates that I go through with the individuals. That's why I know it's not like, if it says this, that's exactly what that scale is. You have some play in it because this is how they're designed. Achenbach scales do not meet Daubert standards, only because they haven't been tried in court, and Daubert is a federal level. They do have validity and reliability scales, but they don't have any scale to detect malingering. Like, are you faking? The other tests do. And I think because of that, it probably won't meet Daubert standards. I can give other tests to tell if you're faking, but in terms of that one, no. I like the Achenbach scales, though, because they are only measuring behaviors past 6 months. So a lot of the folks, as you know, that we're working with are drug abusers, and they're saying, I'm clean and sober. If I give them a personality assessment inventory, it does not tease out, when did you get clean and sober? This test does. It asks, past 6 months, how often have you used A, B, C, D? And so therefore, I'm kind of giving them credit for it. So I give both. So the personality assessment inventory might say high potential for addiction, but this one would say, but they haven't used for the past 4 months. That's what we do. And the judges have been very good about, nobody so far has said, I don't want to accept that report because it doesn't meet Daubert standards. I'm about to get into that, I think, with a new case I'm involved with DFS and the families, but usually not. I think because the courts and the attorneys understand the tests I'm using, and that there just aren't that many out there. So there's a handful, basically. Was there a question back there?
Do you test mostly adults, or are you testing children too?
I do both. Mostly it's the adults because it's kind of parental competency evals. But sometimes, recently there was a family where I tested the mom and the dad years ago. They had an adolescent child that was really not doing well, was out of the family, and the judge wanted to know what's going on with this kid. So I did that. The adolescent evals are longer, meaning it just takes me longer. I talk to the teachers, I do checklists, I talk to the parents, I talk to the social worker. When an adult comes in, I just rely on their self-report. So I have additional written information, like the Delta summary, I can get that, the criminal record, or the DFS reports, but I don't like call the adult's mother, partner, parole officer. I don't do that. There's another question, I think. Yeah.
Like you're talking about testing someone for, they say they're no longer addicted, or at this point, are there parts in that test that could tell if they're not telling you the truth?
Not on the Achenbach scales. There are on the PAI and the Minnesota test, yes, but not on the Achenbach scale. So again, that's probably why I won't ever meet Daubert standards. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Ooh, Lordy. Okay, so there are tests I can look at for malingering. Now, malingering doesn't mean lying. Malingering means you're exaggerating. So I might have a slight headache. If I say, this is a blinding headache, I can't go on, I need coffee, or I need that's malingering. So I was coming downstairs, and I tripped a little bit coming down, except now I think my leg's broken. I need to file a report with Human Services. That's malingering. Okay? I'm feeling a little depressed. Such and such happened. There's another debate tonight. Therefore, I'm going to go on disability and can't work because of my. That's a malingering. Okay. So there are tests that look specifically at malingering. One is called the test of memory malingering. So you say, geez, did I beat my wife? I don't remember. I'm really having a hard time kind of piecing this together. And so I give them a test that will tell me with a reasonable degree, this is a Dauber test, are they lying to me or not? I love this test. Because it sounds really hard and it is dirt simple. You show them 50 pictures. And they look at each picture for 3 seconds. And then the test is, you show them 2 pictures, one of which they've seen before. And they have to pick out which one they've seen. And you might think, well, you're going to show me 50 pictures, and I have to memorize which 50 pictures, and then you're going to show, but your brain just picks it up visually. So the error rate is like, you might miss 1 or 2. So when people miss 30, that's a problem. I mean, if you're in a coma, you'll miss 30.
Yeah. Does that work on adolescents?
Sure. Yeah. There's no age restriction on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. There's other ways you can test
Right.
adolescents as an example. There are certain tests in the IQ test that you can tell if they're faking or not. You look at certain subtests. But it's not a lie detector. Like,
Yeah, no, I understand.
like, you know, curfew was 9 o'clock last night. Where were you? I don't remember. You don't give a test of memory malingering. I can that. The Miller Forensic Assessment of Symptoms Test. This is also a really nice one. So the instruction is something like, often people have a variety of symptoms they experience sometimes during their lifetime. I'm going to read you a series of symptoms. You tell me if you've ever experienced this. If you haven't, it's okay. Sometimes when people are sitting here across from me, they feel a little anxious and they have to look under their chair to see if anything's there. Does that ever happen to you? Oh yeah, all the time. Now, you've been with them for an hour. They have not looked under their chair. So that's an example where you kind of test. You suggest a symptom. You say, have you ever experienced this? Okay? So measuring literacy is kind of your reading level, your spelling level, your reading comprehension level, your math. So we have a wide range achievement test. There are several substance abuse screens, drug abuse screening tests, Michigan alcoholism screening tests. These are all really well and often used, but again, they're all self-reports, so you can lie through your teeth. I can't detect that. The best way to do screens for drugs is urinalysis or blood tests, and I can't do that. I also use questionnaires sometimes, so I have one for bipolar, social anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, and again, the Achenbach scales, which are more like questionnaires than true tests. So, usually tests are self-report. The difference would be like the weights. The IQ tests are not self-report. I'm going to say, can you put this puzzle together? I'm going to watch you. So you don't say, yeah, and I take your word for it. You got to do it. So I give you a vocabulary test. You know, do you know these words? Yeah, take my word for it. No. So an IQ test is a test of interaction. I'm working with you. Your performance is how I score what's going on. So none of these other tests are like that. It's all self-report. So again, we put questions or items in there so we can kind of guess, are you faking? Are you not paying attention? Are you lying to me? That type of thing. Should we be surprised if the tests indicate that the parent was being defensive? No. If I'm a parent and my kids are taken away, you better believe I'm going to put my best foot forward. And so you have to know as the evaluator that when you score defensive on these tests, it's not a bad thing. It may be, but that's why you talk to people about stuff. So you can't assume, and some of these tests have warnings, you know, don't use these in custody evals, etc., because people are defensive. They want to deny that they've been having problems because they want to get this over, they want to get their kids back, etc. The parent's reading ability may not be adequate for some of the tests. Basically, you have to read about a 4th, 5th grade level for me to have confidence that I can give this to you. So when I do, if you haven't graduated from high school, I give you a reading test. Or if you tell me you were in special ed in high school, I give you a reading test. So if your reading scores are below 4th grade, I don't give the other test. It's just a clinical interview, and I just note that in the report. And no test predicts the future. So the benefit to using tests is we have norms. So when I give you an IQ test, if you only answered 20 of the 27 items on the vocabulary test, what does that tell me about you? Well, if your IQ is 120, that's why we do the norm stuff. It helps us anchor. Also, we want to use tests because they're unbiased. The first time, when I was learning how to do the IQ test, I thought you could be liberal. You could really express yourself so that people understood what you were doing. And we had to tape record our assessments. So I'm practicing on the neighbor's kids, and I'm giving them this IQ test. I'm really explaining things to them. My professor says F. Why F? He said, the manual, Joe, is for you to read it. You don't have to make stuff up. Read the manual. So when you do this, it's like you must say these words in this word. That's how standardized it is. And standardized means that if I give the IQ test, if you do, it'll all be the same, because we're reading the same manual. So there's no desire to be kind of free-flowing, and not on these tests. It's very specific. All of these tests, the MFAS, the MILS, it's very specific. You must say it this way. You must give the person this amount of information, et cetera, et cetera. And because of Paul Mills' research, we know that these tests are more accurate than clinical judgment. Cons. You have to be, these tests have to be given by a psychologist. So there are a lot of wonderful social workers in the field doing therapy and stuff, but they can't legally, by law, give these tests. They have no training in that. And the information can be misused. The ABLE is a test that is used to measure sexual interest. What are you interested in sexually? And the theory is, you're looking at a computer screen, you have a mouse, and you're tapping on the mouse whenever you want to kind of go to a different slide. That's basically it. So attention means you're interested in that. So if you're looking at 5-year-old boys and you delay the click, that may mean you're visually interested in looking at 5-year-old boys as opposed to 15-year-old women or in your adolescence. That's the theory behind it. What's the problem with the ABLE test? And I say this because it's been used in family court, and I'm on my soapbox. I wish I could be taller. Anybody can give these. You go through a little training that can be done on the computer, and you have to at least be a social worker, so it's like anybody can give them. Social workers are not trained in test and measurement, statistics, or reliability. So I was working on a case one time. A parent comes to me and says, the judge took my kids away. Why? Because they found some inappropriate pictures of my daughter, and they don't know who took the pictures, my husband or me. And so the husband's attorney said, make this mother take the ABLE, so we'll see if she abused her children. And her attorney said, yeah, sure, what's the loss? She takes the ABLE, and the examiner reports to the judge. She has a sexual interest in 5-year-old boys. Her son is 5-year-old boys, but adult males and 5-year-old boys. I actually met Dr. Abel. I talked to him one time, and I said, what's your error rate? And he said, I'm not going to tell you. It's all proprietary information. Nothing is published about the error rates. So who knows? So, anyhow, so that's why the judge took the job. So this is my client, so I called the person who gave the test. I said, let's have a meeting, try to resolve this. The person comes in my office. I said, your test is an error. Your discussion is an error. Having an interest isn't the same as a behavior. I said, if I'm interested in driving fast on the highway, you cannot arrest me for speeding until I do it. You cannot pull this mother's kid. But he had testified in such a way that led the judge to believe the kid was in danger. I said, I want you to write to the judge and correct the error. And he said, no, I won't do it. I did it. The judge returned the kid. This test has been used in other cases I've been involved with where people are misusing the interest. They don't get it. Interest is not the same as activity. I could be interested in stuff that's very gross and very illegal, but until I cross the line and do it, there's nothing you can do about that. So, again, that's why you really want somebody who's trained in this material. The only psychologist I know trained in is Steve Eichel in Wilmington, Delaware. He took the training. He and I have discussed this. I send him the folks who have taken the ABLE to redo it because he understands the test. And interestingly, we always get different results. Talk about the problem with reliability. And the other con is it's expensive to do some of these tests. So a forensic eval is an evaluation for the court is to provide the judge with information, make a decision. It's long. I do it long because you can hold your breath for 45 minutes. 3 hours is a long time. And that's why I do it. So I ask a question, and later on I ask the question, later on I ask it a different way, later on I ask it a different way. One of the tests I use is I say, give me pictures of your kids. And it's always interesting to me, adults that have pictures of their girlfriends in cars, but not their children. That's an attachment issue to me. So is that a test? No, but it's something I talk about. And it's interesting, isn't it? You have a picture of your new car and your brand new girlfriend. You don't have a picture of your 7 children. What's up with that? You know? And we talk about it. So again, I can't go fishing. My involvement is based solely on what the DFS worker asked me to do. Why are the referrals made? Because people drive you nuts sometimes. Now, this is an actual machine that they used to use pre-medicine, before we had pills. So if a person was talking to themselves, and you put them in this machine long enough and twirl it, they will quit talking to themselves. Fortunately, nowadays we have medicines that help do that. So the social workers make a referral because the client's not progressing, or there's something about them they don't quite understand. They think it might be a mental health issue, or they have a history of mental health or substance abuse issues, and they're not currently being treated. So I need a referral to reduce or eliminate my bias. Questions are my parameters. I can't go beyond them. And if I try to, I need permission first. I call the social worker, or I talk with the attorney. So this data, when I test someone, a lot of times I get stuff that doesn't quite add up. My job, because an individual, is to make sense of this. Why is this individual giving me discrepant information? And can I reasonably explain that so that it makes scientific sense? So I can't just make stuff up. There has to be reason I can put things together to explain it. So my rule of thumb is always I accept whatever anyone tells me. I'm very gullible. If you tell me you drove your car and the judge should be impressed because you haven't been arrested for 15 years, I believe you. Now I'm going to report that because I'm not the judge, but yes, I totally believe you. Because to me, it's the cross-examinations from the attorneys that really kind of flush out what really happened, what was really said, who really did what. I was in court last week, and this was a person I had tested twice. So in the more recent test, everything was great. They had turned a new leaf. They were going to quit drugging and get a job. And everything was just perfect. And I said, then why did you say this before? Because she was afraid of her husband. He was very violent. And there was suspicion of domestic violence, but she had never admitted it. But now she says, I'm afraid of this guy. I'm even afraid of testifying in court because he's going to hear me. The reason I can't stay clean and sober is because he encourages me to do drugs. I walk into court, into court, and the attorney for DFS says, she now says that all that was a lie. So I said, okay, go to court, and I say what she told me. And the other attorney says, how do you know what the truth is? I said, I don't know what the truth is, because she said A and then she said B. But theoretically, it makes sense to me that women who are victims of domestic violence often go through a whole series of 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards before they're able to break that bond. And so they often are confronted with, when I'm feeling good, I'm going to tell you the truth about it, I'm safe. She happened to be in the shelter when I evaluated her. And when they're out, they're so frightened that they haven't made that separation yet. They changed the story to preserve their survival rate. So I said, I think that's the most logical explanation. What's the truth? So again, there may have been errors. That's why I accept whatever you tell me. And sometimes there have been in the social work reports errors and things. There's likely to be evidence I'm unaware of. Not everything can be put in a social summary. So again, as I have them walk me through what's in there, I kind of learn new things about what's happening. Why don't people follow their treatment plans? Well, one is they might not understand them. So there's this term, agnosia, which means, and it happens that 50% of people with a diagnosis of schizophrenia, 40% of people with bipolar, with psychosis, that they don't know they're sick. They don't take medicines because they don't know that a hallucination is not normal. They don't know they're being psychotic. So a lot of the homeless have this. And when you talk to them about, why aren't you in a hospital? Why? Why would I? And they're hallucinating. You watch them. They have no awareness that that's sick, that there's something. So some of these folks aren't doing this. 50% of people with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia occurs in 1 in 100 people. Think about the population of a town. Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you see people that are struggling with their treatment plans, a lot of times, they don't have buy-in. They don't really know why it's that important. I think I told you before, this is not unusual. Why do I need to stop smoking marijuana? It's legal in Colorado. I said, move there. You're in Delaware. I don't know what to tell you. And then when they want to get into the argument about, it's not as bad as alcohol. I'm not a judge. If you can sell it to the judge, go for it. I don't really care. I mean, it's illegal in Delaware. Often, parents aren't very motivated to get their kids back for a variety of reasons, some of which is they never had good parenting. If you're a good parent, you know that some days you would sell your kids to the gypsies if you had a good price. It's just because raising children is hard. And you also know that some days it's like, you're like the mama bear. Nobody better do it. So when you're raised in an environment like that, you realize you're valued. And you develop persistence to a task. What if you're not raised in an environment like that? And so when things get bad, your parents leave. Mom runs away, daddy left, does drugs. That's the modeling. I mean, we parent a lot based on how we were parented. Very few of us are reading, how to raise a healthy child. We think we do because we read Dear Abby. It's not quite the same. We're not really up on the literature about parenting styles, and we just kind of presume, hey, I was raised